Elon Musk entered into the political fray this presidential election, putting his full support behind former President Trump, launching a pro-Trump super PAC, and campaigning heavily in Pennsylvania. But over the weekend, the tech billionaire made headlines after announcing he will give away $1 million a day to a registered voter in a battleground state who signs his political action committee's petition. This move sparked criticism from Democrats and left many legal scholars wondering, is it legal? Joining me now to help make sense of Elon's latest move is constitutional law professor Robert McWhirter. Robert, it seems like we are in a little bit of a legal gray area here. Could this potentially violate election law?
Oh, if it's gray, I would call it dark gray. I think it's getting awful close. There's a specific federal statute that says that you are not supposed to offer any money or incentives to get people to register to vote or to register. Now, the question is whether having this little lottery that Elon Musk wants to do falls kind of afoul of that statute. And that's a pretty close legal question. I don't know of any investigations on this right now, but it's pretty close what he's coming to doing.
Yeah, you mentioned the federal law that says you can't pay to register for someone to vote, but could a judge decide that this move could actually maybe induce someone to register and then make this illegal?
Oh, sure. I mean, look, if I say to you, hey, I'm going to give you $100 to register, that's violative of the statute. If I say to you, I'm going to give you $100 worth of shock absorbers for your truck to register, well, that's violating the statute as well. It's any kind of inducement. So the question is whether putting you in a lottery like this, where you can get $1 million if you register, is that a violation? I think it certainly violates the spirit of the statute if it doesn't violate the statute directly.
You said there hasn't been any indication that you've seen of an investigation pending. Who actually would do that investigation? How would that start? And at this point, 2 weeks from Election Day, is it too late to do anything about this?
Well, I think it's pretty too late to do anything about this. The one who would do this investigation would be the Department of Justice because it's a federal statute. I don't know of any specific statutes in the state in question that may be also implicated, but I think we're talking about the federal statutes. So that would be purely probably the FBI, and then the United States Department of Justice would come in their election integrity unit to raise those issues.
State judges in Michigan and North Carolina this week rejected separate Republican challenges to certain overseas ballots. What is the Republican argument for trying to stop these ballots from being counted, and what is the latest out of Pennsylvania where a similar case is still pending?
Well, the Republican argument is a little bit vague. It's fitting in their broad category of there's huge election irregularities, and somehow this runs afoul. I mean, to put this in context, if you are a resident of that state and you're serving overseas and you have an adult son or daughter, what they're saying is that not only can you not vote, even though you're a Michigan resident, but your children who are also Michigan residents can't vote either. And they're claiming that it's somehow kind of election fraud. Now, those overseas votes traditionally have tended to be Republican votes. They tended to favor Republicans. In recent years, not so much. But I think the real issue here, what's underlying this, is to just try to make it part of a broad claim of election fraud to lay the groundwork for the Trump campaign to complain if he doesn't win the election. And he's going to add this to his list of all these things, wholly unsubstantiated that there's ever been any fraud in this context. But I think it's all part of that broader strategy to make an excuse for losing an election.
Yeah, and along those same lines, this summer, Georgia's Republican-led state election board passed controversial new election rules, which included allowing election workers to delay certifying results and requiring a hand count verification of ballots on election night. Judges in the state have ruled against the state's election board, but now the case will go before the Georgia Supreme Court. How big of a deal do you think this is?
Well, it could be monumental. Look, what's going on here, again, is kind of an attempt to say that there's broad election fraud. All of these are solutions to problems that do not exist. Now, these local election officials traditionally and by statute, according to the judge, have a purely ceremonial function in certifying the elections. they seem to want to arrogate themselves the power of actually investigation so they can make claims that votes are invalid. So what they're basically saying is you make your ballot and somebody who's on that election board can decide that your valid ballot doesn't count just because they decide. And what the judge said is no way. That's just not the way it's done. If there's fraud, then it has to go to the state attorney general for investigation and a proper way of dealing with it. I think I think the judge's decision was quite sound, and I anticipate that it will be upheld on appeal, because this is a local board trying to say power. They have power that they do not have to deal with a problem that does not exist.
All right, that's all I have. Robert McWhirter, thanks so much for coming on.
My great pleasure.
The former CEO of Abercrombie Fitch has been arrested on sex trafficking charges. Mike Jeffries and 2 other men were taken into custody accused of sex trafficking and interstate prostitution charges. Details of the criminal charges aren't immediately available, but the arrests come after years of sexual misconduct accusations. Last year, in a lawsuit filed against Abercrombie Fitch, the company was accused of allowing Jeffries to run a sex trafficking organization during his 22 years with the company. The former CEO is accused of having scouts search the internet for models, some of whom became sex trafficking victims. An attorney for Jeffries responded to the arrest in an email saying he would respond in detail to the allegations after the indictment is unsealed. As cleanup continues following Hurricane Milton, residents on Florida's west coast are now facing a new challenge: debris, everything from refrigerators to photo albums, stuck in coastal waters. Allison Henning with Next Star Nation's WFLA in Tampa, Florida, has a look at the issue and what the state is doing to address it.
During Hurricane Milton, all of the debris that was lining the streets from Helene ended up somewhere else because of several feet of storm surge here. Residents in this Inglewood neighborhood tell us a lot of it ended up in the bay and the canals behind their homes. In the 3 years Tommy Herzog has lived along Stewart Street in Inglewood, he lost his roof to Hurricane Ian. Idalia flooded out his pool and Florida room, and this year Helene and Milton destroyed virtually everything he owns.
It's just terrible. We don't know whose stuff it is. A lady down the street brought my wife a photo album. She recognized who she was and brought her the photo album.
As the mountain of debris in his front yard starts to shrink, he's wondering when someone's going to address all the trash in the canal out back. Each low tide reveals trash bags, furniture, and other debris.
Go look off my dock. You know, it's nasty. Who's going to pick that up?
In other areas, people have spotted boats in places they don't belong, and everything from mattresses and dressers to sheds and even a dumpster in the bay. 8 on Your Side asked Governor DeSantis what the state is doing to address the mess.
The state has helped with marine debris removal, and so we'll continue to help with marine debris removal.
It's already under contract in Sarasota. The contractor's on site.
On the county level, Sarasota County tells us it has requested assistance from the state to help remove debris from both public and private waterways. We did reach out to local nonprofits who have done waterway cleanups after hurricanes in the past. They tell us right now they do have some concerns tied to infection because of the water quality in some of these areas, but tell us once it is safe to do so, they do have plans to come out and help how they can. For now, reporting in Sarasota County, Allison Henning, 8 on Your Side.
Early voting began in Arkansas on Monday, and already thousands of voters have cast their ballots. But now, because of a controversial court decision, votes on one issue will no longer be taken into consideration. The Arkansas Supreme Court ruled Monday that a state constitutional amendment that would broaden access to medical marijuana has misleading and deceptive wording, and any votes for that amendment will not be counted. Samantha Boyd with Next Star Nation's KARK in Little Rock has details of the decision.
I think the people of Arkansas are fed up with confusing ballot measures, and this would have been another one of those.
Issue 3, dealing with medical marijuana in Arkansas, stopped in its tracks on day 1 of early voting. Its fate all coming down to a split state Supreme Court decision released on Monday that points to the ballot proposal's popular name and title for not being clear enough for voters to understand. The opinion even goes on to say this was a calculated decision by its sponsors and to omit necessary information for voters to understand at the ballot.
It's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking that politics have overruled the people.
Arkansans for Patient Access spokesperson Melissa Foltz behind the effort, hoping to expand access to medical marijuana in the natural state. allowing more healthcare professionals to prescribe the cards with broader qualifications for patients.
I can't give up until every patient that needs this has it. I can't. It's not in my DNA to give up. So I keep fighting.
Family Council President Jerry Cox has been outspoken about his opposition to what this measure would have done and how it was being laid out to voters.
It went too far, it's too extreme, all kinds of things about it. But the bottom line is these measures need to be understandable by the average voter, and this one was not that.
The headache that Fultz and other groups behind ballot proposals have become accustomed to in the process of getting a constitutional amendment before voters is something even the Supreme Court opinion references. Justice Cody Hyland in his dissent saying, quote, "It is an understandable frustration in the moment that is overshadowed by a much greater and essential equity at play. We are a nation of laws and not men, and forever it must be."
We're supposed to be, regnant populace, the people rule. Yet they are making sure, absolutely sure, that the people do not have a voice. And it's heartbreaking that politics are destroying patients' chances for a better life.
Samantha Boyd with KARK in Little Rock, thanks for your reporting. The presidential election is set to come down to just 93 electoral votes in 7 swing states. With Election Day fast approaching, Blake Burman breaks down the electoral math and how candidates are spending their time in today's Political Minute.
A swing state sprint with 2 weeks to go. I'm Blake Burman with News Nation. Vice President Kamala Harris spending much of this week in the blue wall swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Thursday, she heads to Georgia. Former President Donald Trump kicks off the week in North Carolina and then heads to Georgia and Nevada later in the week. At least 270 Electoral College votes are needed to win the presidency. And according to the Hill Decision Desk HQ Election Center, Harris is currently expected to win 226. Trump expected to win 219. That leaves 93 up for grabs in the 7 key swing states. Those states are all too close to call, all polling within 2 points of each other. Nevada and Wisconsin seemingly tied. Now, right now, the Hill Decision Desk HQ Election Center gives Trump a 52% chance of winning the White House. I'm Blake Burman, and this is the News Nation Political Minute.
You can find more news and analysis from Blake and our colleagues 24/7 on News Nation. Go to joinnn.com. And that's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Drew Petrimoulx. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel. And come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.